But basically, this podcast, the idea for this is I'm a book cover designer, but I want to learn everything about the process and help other. I get asked all the time. I think when you're working with someone as a book cover designer, they just think that you know everything there is to know. And I know a bit, but I'd love to know more. And speaking to people like yourself that have been through it, going through it, it's fascinating for me. I love it. Absolutely love it.
All right. Well, hopefully I can be quite interesting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you actually write for a genre that I've been wanting to read for so long, and I'm just starting to sort of find my way through who to start with and things like that. So, from like a real selfish,
I can tell you where to start. Is
that all historical fiction?
No, so
no,
quite a lot of fantasy actually.
Oh, cool.
More and more now, I read more fantasy than I do. I guess maybe because I write historical fiction that I like reading something different, you know?
Yeah.
But I love fantasy. I read so much.
Oh, cool. Do you think the amount that you read does the fantasy sort of element that you read in help with your own work?
I think so, because the thing with fantasy is, so if I'm writing a book and it's like my first 3 books, so it's based on the Marcomannic War, you've got a historical time frame to work from, you know who the big figures in the war were, when certain battles happened, where they happened, what Roman legions were involved, and so you have a kind of a timeline to follow along, and you kind of know where your characters need to be and when. So that kind of structures your story for you, and then you can put in kind of the fiction and some side stories, and hopefully make it a bit more 3-dimensional as you go. But with fantasy, you've got none of that. You've got nothing. You've got no starting point. You haven't even got a world. Do you know what I mean? Like you've literally got to start from the base up. And I think people that can do that are just unbelievable.
Just like another world of skill.
Yeah. Absolutely. Completely different skill set. Completely different. I love it.
I've got because you've got 5 books all in all. I think, are you writing your 6th now?
I have finished my 6th. And it currently looks like this.
Has it just been edited?
Yeah. So that's all done now. So I formatted it today and requested a proof copy, so I can just double check what it looks like as a proof copy. No cover. That's not been done yet. No cover or anything like that. So I'll get a book through the post, just a blank book, no cover on it, which is fine because no one will ever see it apart from me. I just gets a final read through in proper book format from me, because you'll always find a typo. Guaranteed, in an actual book format, you will always find a typo that you didn't see before, or an editor didn't see before, or whatever. And then you just double checking the formatting, and inside it looks how you want it to look, and then covers etc. next.
And then is that the last stop then for you then for it to go to cover and then be published?
Yeah. Well, you'll know as a cover designer, you want to know how many pages long the book is. So you need to know how big the spine's going to be, and etc., what size book it's going to be. So it's always the last thing. Everything else is done first, cover at the end. Yeah. For me, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, for those details. Plus, like, everything's done then, isn't it? Like, the cover designer has all the material at their disposal to create something that's appropriate for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of the 5 books, 3 of those books, probably part of the 6 books now, 3 of those books are part of a trilogy, aren't they? Part of a series.
They are, yeah.
So was that your first book, set of books?
Yeah, that was my first. So I knew I wanted to write about the Roman Empire, because it was a passion of mine, and I read so many Roman historical fiction novels at the time. I couldn't get enough of them. So I knew it was something that I wanted to do. But it's a very crowded market. There's a lot of authors that write Roman historical fiction. So for me, it was finding a period or a war a period that I hadn't read a book about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where there's a potential gap in the market. So I can tell you what I did actually. Hang on. What I did. I'm back. Also, I got a copy of this book. This is The Complete Roman Army by Adrian Goldsworthy. Really, really well-known and very good Roman historian.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the front of this book, there is... I mean, I obviously won't be able to find it now because that's just how life works. But there's somewhere in the front, there's a list of every major conflict that Rome fought in from Rome's conception all the way to the end of the empire. So every major war they fought or every major battle.
Wow.
And I went through that list and basically said, right, I know an author who wrote stories about that one. I've read books about that one. I've read books about that one. And eventually I got to something called the Marcomannic War, which was set in the reign of, or was in the reign of Marcus Aurelius. So late kind of 2nd century. And it was between the Roman army and a coalition of Germanic tribes who were trying to push south across the Danube into what was Pannonia, now Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that was it. I went from there, really. So I spent a long time researching. Again, books, lots of books, many books about the Roman Empire and about that particular period in time. And yeah, so I can vividly remember choosing to write in that period.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where the idea for, my debut is called The Centurion's Son. And I couldn't tell you where that came from, where that whole idea of a teenage kid living in his father's shadow and trying to make a path for himself. I've literally no idea. It must have just come to me like that.
I think it's like asking a comedian where they get their jokes from. It's like, like life, anything, just whatever inspires.
Yeah, a reader asked me, I don't know, a year, 18 months ago, like, where did this idea come from? I think I really disappointed them when I just went, I don't know. I don't know. just formed itself. And I went with it, yeah.
Usually those are the best ideas, though, aren't they? It's like a party that wasn't planned. They can be like the best, the best things that spark.
And for me, that's the fun bit. So you get a historical timeline. So you kind of know where you're going, you know where you're going to start, and you know where you're going to end up. Yeah. And it's everything in the middle. That's the fun bit, So you can make sure that you've got the right people in the right place at the right time, so it's historically accurate. But also you can then make all these kind of side stories coming off it. Give conflict to your characters, put challenges in front of them, give them hurdles to jump over, and kind of see what happens. That's the fun bit for me when it comes to writing. Not much of a plotter. No. Really.
Does it go in a very clear order? Like you start, obviously you have your end, but you start the start and it goes, or can it jump
No,
around?
It can jump. Yeah. It can jump around. So the first 3 books are The Centurion's Son, War in the Wilderness, Shield of the Rising Sun. There must be nearly 25 years from the start of book 1 to the end of book 3.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so you can jump, and I think that's good because that helps kind of move the story along as well, and you can have like a break, and then 4 years later, that can help. I think can help kind of move the story along because you don't get too bogged down in one period or in one setting. If you want to move from. So in the 3rd book in that trilogy, part of it's set in Rome, and it's set in Rome because I wanted to write about something in Rome because I'd never done that before, and that was just kind of a different challenge. Because obviously it's a city that is very famous and has been very well researched and dug up, and we kind of has a good understanding of where streets were and what buildings are on those streets, and so you have to kind of make sure that you portray that as accurately as you can, which again is a different challenge.
I was going to ask that with historical fiction, because I did a pre-made ages ago, and I asked a friend who I know knows a lot about history, is this accurate? But how accurate do you need to be? Because people are very passionate, obviously. And
you'll always
I imagine they'll pull you up.
You'll always get someone. I had an email once from someone. Twice I've had emails correcting me, actually. Once was because in a book I had a river running south, and a lady that lives in Germany emailed me to tell me that the river actually runs north because she lives right by it. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, fair enough. I'll take that on the chin.
Oh my. That is insane. That's so cool. That's
just
amazing.
Something wasn't integral to the book at all, just something mentioned in passing in the book, 4 words at the bottom of a sentence that I didn't think twice about.
Wow.
Yeah, one email about the armor I had Roman soldiers wearing. Someone saying, I don't think that's right. But actually I was right because I double checked it when they emailed me. So I enjoyed replying to that one.
Do you get like a sudden, like, your heartbeat skips and you're like, was it? And you're like, no, come on, I've researched. Like, I know that.
Right. No, not really.
No.
No. It is what it is, isn't it? It's a work of fiction. It's something to be enjoyed. It's not an historical text. It's not, for that. But obviously, you want to make it as accurate as you can, because there are lots of people like me who will read and read and read so much Roman fiction or non-fiction, or just generally interested in that period in time that will know a huge amount. And it can grate as a reader when you read something, you think, oh, that's not right, or you've made that up, or you could have done something a bit better there. But because it's a minor.
Because I imagine for people passionate about, like you said, like that, the Roman era, that time frame, you want to put them there and then in that fictional
absolutely,
story.
Yeah. I mean, the sights, the sounds, the smells. What did the people eat? What color was their clothes? Everything. As much as you can't research too much, and then you can just cherry pick what you put into the book, because you can bog them down with too much detail. I think it can become a bit of a history lesson rather than a novel. And I've definitely read books that are like that, 100%. So that's definitely a thing. But I think cherry picking what you put in and only putting in bits that are essential to your character are really important. So you don't just have, a wodge of, a page or 2 pages where there's no dialogue. You're not moving the story forward. You're just showing off how much you've researched what a Roman market looked like. If it's not important to the story and it's not important to your character, then it doesn't need to be there for me.
Yeah, that's amazing though. That's such a fine line to walk, isn't it? And balance, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, it's hard, and showing the reader those things rather than telling them. It's very easy just to dump a load of exposition into a book, but it's boring for a reader.
Yeah.
So if you've got a character and they're in a marketplace, what can they see? What can they smell? And actually, what are they doing with those sights and smells? How is it affecting them at that time? And you kind of then show it to your reader rather than just telling them, this is what it smelled like, this is what it looked like.
Yeah.
And it just brings it to life a bit more, makes it a bit more 3-dimensional.
Yeah. What about, so your sort of love of history, has that been something that you've been interested in since being a kid, or it's always been there?
Yeah, definitely. It was my favourite thing at school. Probably the only thing that really held my attention for any length of time in school. But I've always read a lot. I've always really loved reading. When I was about 16, 17, I bought a book called Excalibur by Bernard Cornwell, and I was in an airport going on holiday, and I don't know why I bought it. It just thought, oh, that might do, keep me entertained for a little while. And I went on holiday for 2 weeks, and I read the book 3 times in 2 weeks. It's just spellbound by it completely. It's a book about King Arthur, but he tells it so well. And I didn't realise when I bought it, it's actually the 3rd book in a trilogy. And it just made no difference to me at all. I devoured it 3 times. And as soon as I was back in the UK, I was straight in a bookshop to get 1 and 2 and raced through them as well. And then the next book I can really remember loving, I bought because it had a quote from Bernard Cornwell on the front, on the cover. And it's the only reason I bought it. And that was The Gates of Rome by Connie Gordon, which is the first of 5 books about Julius Caesar. And that was it for me. Just absolutely drawn in.
Just got you again.
Rome, and that was it. And then it was all in a bookshop. What other Roman books are there? What can I buy? And before you know it, I'd read 50, and then I'd read 100, and still going.
Yeah.
So that was it for me.
How did that turn then? It always amazes me what brought you to the point of literally sitting down at your computer or picking up a pen and thinking, I'm doing this myself.
It must have been probably about 2015. And I think I just said to my wife one day, I'd love to write a book. I'd love to have a go at doing that. I think it's an amazing thing to do. And she went, well, just go and do it then. I was like, well, it's not that simple. She went, you've got a laptop, go and do it. What's stopping you?
That's such a good message. Just go.
Yeah. And she was right, really. What was stopping me? So I did. I have to say, The Centurion's Son wasn't my first attempt at writing a book.
Okay.
I did have a go before. Maybe that was 2014. So I must have started writing The Centurion's Son in 2015.
Yeah.
But I did start writing a book set around the Battle of Adrianople, kind of late 4th century Eastern Roman Empire. I don't know why I picked that. Don't ask me. I can't remember. I do know that the book was dreadful, like really bad, really, really bad. I still have on this laptop, actually, I still have a file with what I'd written. It's about 50,000 words, and it's awful. 2014 me had no idea what a full stop was. Every sentence just went on and on and on and on, like 3 or 4 lines long. It was terrible. It was awful. But at the time, I thought it was good. But I gave up on that. I think I just kind of lost interest, and I don't know. I just kind of stopped. But I think it was when I was kind of thought I'm going to have another go.
Yeah.
I read back what I'd written of that and thought this is not, this is not good. No one is going to want to read this. So I threw it in the fire, and that's when I turned my attention to The Centurion's Son and looking for a different period to write in, and kind of started again, but stuck with it this time. Really, I think that's the main thing, because it can take me a year to write a book. Well, it does take me a year to write a book. So it's having that, determination that every evening I'm going to sit down and write 1,000 words. And then tomorrow night I'm going to sit down and write 1,000 words. And then the next day I'm going to sit down and write 1,000 words. And then, if you did that every day for 4 months, you got a book. I don't do it every day. I try to, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. But I try to at least 4 times a week, 5 times a week, sit down 1,000 words. So I can get to the end of the week 4,000 or 5,000 words further down the line. Then I know I'm making progress, and eventually I'm going to get there.
Because that it is, when you think about it, like that length of time to stick at it, to keep, and it's just you. It's all on you and that amount of time. I imagine for many people, the amount of people that start something maybe get 3 months in and just fizzles and gone.
Yeah. I've got a friend who keeps saying he's going to write a book, and he keeps saying he started and he hasn't. He's not got anywhere. Every time I see him, I'm like, "Where's that book? Show me a book." But it is hard, and especially when it's your first, and no one might know you're doing it, or you are literally just doing it because you love writing, not for money, not for anything else. You're just doing it because that's what you love doing. You've got to love it. You've got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You'd never make it to the end if you didn't.
And is writing your full time?
No. You got to sell a lot of books if you want to do that full time.
Yeah,
a lot. I think it's less than 10% of writers in the world now write full time, or say that writing is their full time profession. Wow. That's how hard it is to make a decent living.
And that is it. That just goes to show the passion, the love behind your work, because I know it's like full time. Do you have like a full time career, full time job?
Yeah.
And you do?
Yeah, full time job, 3 kids. It's a lot. Busy.
Yeah,
I'm a busy man.
Your books, because I was looking at the trilogy. See, I don't know how to take Amazon rankings, but they are high. In
they do all right. Yeah, I do all right. Do you know, it took a while, and I'll take you on a bit of a journey. Actually, I'll show you. So my first 3 books are published with an independent publisher called Loom Books. At the time, they were Endeavour Press, so they're a digital publisher.
Yeah.
Small budget, 5-6 people, but they took a chance on me as a debut author. I sent them my manuscripts. They were the first people to tell me that they liked what they read and they wanted to publish it, and which was an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
So this is the very first copy of my first book that I'm going to keep forever and ever.
Yeah.
But it originally looks like this.
Oh wow!
All expenses spared. Greek helmet on the cover of a Roman book, which obviously people pick up on.
Yeah.
Show you the back.
Oh wow!
From no angle does it.
Oh no! Oh dear.
So, I mean, all the words are there on the inside. The important bit is as it is now. I don't actually have a copy of this with the new cover. I don't know why I don't, but I don't have one. I did at some point. I must have given it away, or I don't know. So that was what it looked like originally. So that was what was published in November 2017. Yeah. And that's an advantage of self-publishing, is that when I was sent that cover, and I emailed back as politely as I could, that actually that's a Greek helmet, and I'm no historian, but I know that's a Greek helmet, and people who read this genre of books will know that's a Greek helmet, and you can imagine the amount of comments I got about my helmet on social media.
Just absolute swarms of messages about it.
No, I did. And you're like, I know, it wasn't me. I know, I get it. I know.
Yeah.
I understand. So that came out to absolutely no fanfare at all. I don't know, probably sold 50 copies in its first 6 months, maybe, if that. Don't know. And then just as the second one was about to come out, the publisher had it. They did, like a book bub deal.
Yeah.
So the ebook was 99p, and they put it on BookBub,
Yeah.
and it went into the Kindle top 50, like total Kindle top 50 for like 3 days. Like it was mad. I don't know how many copies that was. I can't remember, but a lot.
Amazing, because that fluctuates. Yeah. It's refreshed every like 90 minutes, so 3 days is 10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, I suppose the benefit of having a publisher is they paid for that promotion. They paid for it to go on BookBub. I've looked at doing it myself. It ain't cheap.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one benefit of that. But then this one came out in. What year did that come out? 2019, April 2019, I think.
It's a gorgeous cover as well.
Yeah, they all look good now.
Really,
so when the third one came out, they redid 1 and 2 to match the third as well, which was good.
Oh, cool.
Because it needed it. And you can just tell like, the back looks better and the spine looks better. And
it's beautiful, isn't it, when you get that whole finished like?
It's amazing. Yeah. It's the best. It's the best feeling ever, definitely. Yeah. Aside from having kids and my wife might watch this, got to be careful.
Of course, those things as well.
Yeah. So that came out, April 2019. It must have been. But the difference in that coming out to when the first one coming out, was staggering in terms of the amount of copies sold straight away. Because obviously people have bought the first one, read it, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Next one comes out and they're straight on it. So that was really, pleasing, really good.
Yeah.
And the third one came out in Shield of the Rising Sun. Must have been August 2020.
Right.
August 2020 it was, and that one launched with a proper marketing plan as well.
Wow, cool.
Which was good, and launched very well.
Yeah,
did very, very well. And they all still do. They all still do pretty well. I think the benefit of them being ebooks, as well as tree books and Amazon, and is they never go out of date. They never go out of print as such.
Yeah,
they're always there for people to see and for people to buy and people to pick up.
Yeah,
and more people that enjoy Roman fiction, if they read, some other books, Amazon will always email them and recommend them something similar, won't they? It's kind of how that works, and I guess I pick up new readers from there, and social media, etc., whatever.
Yeah,
but they've done well. They've done well on the whole, the three of them.
How would you say? Because it's got they've all got a lot of ratings. Well, I mean, they're all. But I think the ones I checked were all 5-star. There's a lot of ratings on there. Do you know if it's a mix of ratings, comments, and reviews that help as well push the algorithm?
Massively. Reviews help so much.
Yeah.
So you can rate a book now on Amazon without having to write a review, which is a fairly new thing. So that wasn't a thing like when my debut came out. That's only been the last year or two, I think, fairly recent. So you can rate a book now without having to leave a review, which really helps. But reviews do really, really help. And I think that helps Amazon's algorithms. The more reviews a book gets, the more they push it themselves because they see an opportunity for them to make money. So they kind of try and push it into people's faces. So it does really, really help. Reviews on sites like Goodreads really, really help as well. Hundreds of thousands of people use Goodreads, so that's always really, really helpful as well. If you like a book, leave a review. It helps us authors a lot, definitely.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Do you? Because I know you're active on social media. Because that's how I've been keeping up to date about your writing as well. The book that you're currently doing. how much do you get many responses through social media about the book or questions? And
yeah, a few.
yeah,
It's important, social media. I think you have to be on there now, especially if you want to self-publish, because you don't have the marketing budget of a publisher behind you. You know, it's all got to come from you. And your biggest tool is social media. Absolutely. You know, being active and integrating yourself with, you know, people who read the genre of books that you write in, and reply to comments on things, and, you know, and just try and integrate yourself into that society as much as you can. I think is really, really important.
And how because your other two books, are they through publishers or are they?
No. They're self-published by me.
Yeah. And are they historical fiction as well?
They are. So Oathbreaker, that one there.
Yeah, I love the cover on them.
It's great, isn't it? It's really, really good.
Just stand out. Colours are beautiful.
Yeah. The contrasting colours is really good. Yeah. And the detail on it is brilliant as well. Like, everywhere you look, you can pick out something new. I was blown away by that when I first saw that.
Yeah.
So that was meant to be a standalone. However, the book I've just finished is a kind of sequel to that. So it's now not a standalone. But so talking about fantasy earlier, that for me is pretty much fantasy, because it's all set outside. So it's set in Roman times, but it's set outside the empire, and it's kind of looking from outside within. So you kind of get a different perspective on Rome, because any historical source you read, which is a primary source from that time, was written by a Roman. It's very biased. So you could read Tacitus, and he'll tell you that everyone in Germania is a savage and they eat their own children, and they, you know, but that's all we have to go on. But half it probably isn't true. But it's just that this is written by a guy who didn't like them. You know, Rome wanted their land and they couldn't get it. So everything is slightly biased. But with Oathbreaker, it's all set in Germania.
Right.
And we know next to nothing. There's very little archaeological evidence. There's very little in terms of written sources from the time around what the people were like and how they interacted, and, you know, what they wore or what they ate, or there isn't much compared to the Roman Empire. There's kind of next to nothing to go on. Yeah. So with Oathbreaker, I could just let my imagination run riot. You know,
that's very cool, like a blank canvas, sort of.
Yeah. There's no real constrictions at all. So I created this murderous warband of 500 men that call themselves the Ravensworn, and they fight under a red banner with a black raven on it, and they ride around Germania, getting up to all sorts of mischief and bloody battles, and it was great fun. And the antagonist Alaric is a real kind of anti-hero. He's a bit of a rogue. Cool. He's a sort of character where you feel like anything could happen, you know, when you're writing about him. And it's written in the first person, which is the first time I'd ever done that, so it's a bit different.
Yeah.
And it was a nice kind of palate cleanser after doing 3 books where it was quite structured in terms of, you know, this is what I'm writing about, and this is what I need to follow, and this needs to happen here, and this needs to happen there. Or I need to get this character to here, or there was none of that. You know, I could do whatever I wanted, and that was great.
What makes you sort of decide which of the books will be the last book? So when you wrote book 3 of that series, so how did you decide, right, that is the end?
Well, the publisher wanted one more, actually. Actually, they wanted 3 more.
Wow.
But the thing is, I'd reached the end of what I'd set out to write about. So the Marcomannic War, I'd covered the death of Marcus Aurelius and a kind of war that followed that. 4 people gunning for the throne. Or sorry, the death of Commodus, Marcus Aurelius' son.
Yeah.
I kind of got to the end of that. Books 1 and 2 follow a certain character, a lad called Albinus, and his journey from a kid and his life in the legions and how he kind of adapts to that. And then in book 3, it's partly from his point of view and then partly from his son's point of view. There's a 20-year difference between the two, which was interesting to write as well. We kind of mixed it up a bit and refreshed it, kept me engaged, which was good. And yeah, by the time I got to the end of book 3, I was kind of like, this story is done. Like I've done everything I'm going to do with these 3 characters, and if I do one more, it's just because you've asked me to do one more, or not because that's what I want to write. It reached its natural conclusion, you know. So
I think that's brilliant because, like you said, to dedicate all the time that you do into the stories, to do all the research, all that discipline, there's got to be love of whatever you're creating there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I couldn't write a romantic novel set in the Second World War. You know, you couldn't pay me enough money to do that. I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Just not interested. You've got to be interested in what you're doing. You've got to have a passion for it.
Do you ever get requests to write books in and stories for certain areas that other like fans of yours are interested in, or other people? Do you ever get requests like that? Like, oh, I'd love you if it wrote, you know, if you'd done a book on this era, or?
No, I don't think so. I did have another publisher email me once and say, could I write 3 books for them set in, I can't remember when it was, what time period. Yeah. It was Roman. I think it was about Julius Caesar, and it was another digital publisher. And actually, it was the editor who used to be at Loom Books and then went to another publisher. Emailed and said, could you write 3 books for us? We're looking for books on this. I'm sure it was about Julius Caesar or Mark Antony or that kind of period. And I said no, because the market is saturated with those books. There's tons of them. I must have read 30. Like, we don't need another one of them. No one's going to be. There's not going to be. And actually, could I do it better than the books that I've read before? And I've read some absolutely, you know, blinding books from that period.
Yeah.
Don't know. You know, I think you need a bit of uniqueness in what you do. Rather than just kind of copying what someone else did 10 years ago, because you're telling the same story. And again, if you're writing a story about someone as famous as Julius Caesar, you are telling the same story.
Yeah,
you might tell it differently, you might tell it from a different point of view, etc. But actually, if I buy a book about Julius Caesar, I know it ends on the Ides March in Pompey's theatre with Brutus stabbing him in the back. Because that's how he died. I know how it ends.
You can't escape that, no.
No. And that kind of puts me off wanting to read it as well. So just feel like before I've even started it, you know, I've read this story before. And I know what's going to happen here.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so doing something that no one has done before, or covering a period that no one has really explored before, or an event that no one has explored before, I think adds, you know, it kind of helps you stand out a bit,
you
know, from everyone else out there.
And in terms of you're pretty amazing, but I didn't realize you were both published and self-published as well. That's really, really cool. What was your experience with both, I suppose, because you've had insights of doing the both?
Yeah. It's Saluma, an independent publisher. Like I said, it's a small press. It's mainly digital. So actually, to a certain extent, a lot of their work is kind of self-publishing a book for you.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized when I was looking at sales, so I get sales statements twice a year for them and get paid twice a year.
Yeah.
When you look at how many books you sold and then how much money I've been paid, because I'm getting 25%, 30%, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas when you self-publish, you get 70%. So I was curious more than anything, could I do it myself? Could it be as successful? Could it sell as well? And actually, then could I make a bit more money off the back of that? And also self-publishing, you get so much more control over when a book is released, what the cover looks like, who you want to edit it, and you get so much more control and so much more freedom, and it's quite enjoyable as well.
How did you go?
It stretches you.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I said it stretches you a bit. It's just a bit different
because it's all on. You're doing everything, aren't you? With the self-publishing, like everything's on you.
Well, you're not doing everything. You're more of a project manager. So once you've got your book, once you've got your, and it's as good as you can get it, before it goes to an editor or a proofreader or whatever. I've done my bit. So the downside is you then got to cover the costs of it going to an editor. Paying someone to do the cover for you. But things like that are really, really important. It's probably the two most important things when it comes to self-publishing. Is you don't skimp on edits and you don't skimp on the cover.
And you've got really, really nice covers for your books. Your 5th book as well. A beautiful cover on that as well.
I've got it ready. If you want to have a look. Valencia. It's great, isn't it? The
absolutely stunning.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I this was a company called More Visual Limited, who came recommended to me by some other self-published authors who I reached out to and said, "Hey, your covers are amazing. Who does them?" And four guys, 4 authors that I know pretty well, all pointed me in their direction. And brilliant.
Really,
really
nice
good.
covers.
Yeah, and you get what they create out of the vaguest instructions. I just smell and say, I kind of want it to look a bit like this, but not like that. And with this one, I was like quite like a guy on a horse, and he needs to be in a yellow cloak because there's a yellow cloak in the book. Okay, where's he riding? I don't know, Northern Britain. What does Northern Britain look like? What do you want? I don't know. You go and deal with that. Just a guy on a horse, yellow cloak, speaks in a couple of weeks. And what they come back with is amazing.
Yeah, sometimes that is a blessing or a curse. Like sometimes, because then you've got all this freedom to design and have a lot, and create something. So that sometimes that's like the best thing you can say is just whatever you think. Here's the basics. Go for it. And
exactly that. I've never given. I mean, I've emailed today for the cover for my new book because obviously it's a follow-up to this one, and I want the same banner. At the top, and I'm assuming there's some sort of copyright from stopping anyone else from creating what they already have. So and they do a great job anyway. So I've just emailed them today saying I want a skyline and this banner and maybe some sparks and a bit of fire and that's probably someone on the other end reading it going, "Oh God, here we go again." He's back.
Oh, I can't wait to see. So
I think as well, do you find as a designer, like if someone gives you really specific instructions, that would freak me out because I'd be like, "Oh God, it's got to be exactly what this person has said," or it's, you'll imagine something different to someone else, or the picture you form in your head would be different to someone else. Would that put extra pressure on you?
Yeah, it's usually because my full-time day-to-day job, I'm a graphic designer for a company as well, and that can be because they have a real vivid image in their head of exactly what they want it to look like, but can't sometimes articulate it exactly or create it. Obviously, that's why we're needed, but so it is difficult then. That can be quite difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine it is because maybe that's why I'm not as specific I don't know, but a lot of the time, I mean, well, for me, for the two and a half times I've done it now, the third one's not quite there, but
Yeah.
I don't really know like what I want it to. I find myself on Amazon looking at other book covers and thinking, oh, I like that element of this one or this element of that one.
Yeah. Well, that's the usual sort of basic. I don't get anything. It's kind of similar, I'd like, obviously, you don't want to portray a character like putting a green cloak on. Well, in the book, it's not. That's wrong. Things like that. But other than that, let's see what we can create. I'll have a look at your references and things like that. And then you get a cover like the one you've got there. It's absolutely beautiful. It's on genre. It stands out. If you'd see that book on a bookshelf, and I'm looking now at the genre that you write in, that sort of thing is something I'd grab in a second, and I'd want.
Yeah, it definitely stands out. Even the little thumbnail on Amazon, it definitely it stands out when you see it. Yeah, and you need that. You need that, particularly when you're starting out. You need every bit of help you can get to kind of put your name out there, as it were. Yeah. So it's vital, I think, definitely.
What because is the next book that you're publishing now, will that be self-published as well?
Yes, it will be. Yeah. So we're nearly there, actually. 18th of May.
18th of May.
Yeah, so we're not far off now.
And what do you do, sort of prepare? Coming up to that day, that launch day. What sort of things do you tend to?
So I will send up to maybe 30 or 40 advanced copies out to people that review books that I know, that I've met through social media, that have read books of mine before. You tend to try and send them to people will like it or should like it.
Yeah.
It's helpful, obviously. And that, they won't all read it before the 18th of May. I get people have lives and other stuff to do or other books to read, etc. But at least 10 or 15 will. And that's hopefully a few reviews in the bag for you in and around publication day. It's people sharing a review of your book on their blog or their social media page or Goodreads, etc. And that all helps to kind of build a bit of a buzz. I feel like I've got better at that with every book release.
That sort of time frame, that slot right before. Yeah.
I think before I was always very unprepared, and like 2 weeks before, oh my God, please read my book. Emailing someone. And I get those emails from other authors as well now, and sometimes it's like, you can send me a book, but it ain't going to be read by that date. I can tell you for a fact I won't have read it. So trying to kind of be a bit more prepared with it, leave enough time between finishing your edits and the book being published so that people can actually read the finished copy. And it all just helps.
Do you think, because I was listening to something today about sort of soft launching books, to exactly what you said there, because now you've got books out, you've got people that love your books, and like you said, those are the best people to send those to. And have you just built that up over time, being involved, social media, talking to people?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. When The Centurion Son came out, I didn't know anyone in the book world at all. I didn't know any other authors, didn't know any, book reviewers. I didn't know anyone. Completely went in cold turkey. Not knowing what to do, what I should be doing, or but you slowly kind of pick up on what other authors are doing, and actually that looks like it's working well for them, and can I do something similar to that, or how can I continue to grow myself and put myself out there a bit more. I think probably like most authors, I'm a bit of an introvert. I'd rather not be pouring myself out online to anyone who talks to me for 2 minutes. So you definitely have to put yourself out of your comfort zone a bit. But if you want if you want it to be a success, you've got to.
Yeah.
I just think you have to, and you have to. Sorry, and you have to. Make sure that you have set yourself a marketing budget as well, because you're going to need to do a bit of paid ads or boosted posts on Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. You can advertise on Amazon, and it all just helps, particularly over that kind of launch weekend, to get the book gets as much visibility as it can.
Yeah. Have you felt sort of going along this journey, publishing books, writing, has it helped other aspects of other work, like full time and just anything else in life? Because it's a hell of a thing to take on. It's
I don't know if it's helped anything else as such. I mean, it helps my mental well-being. I like doing it. Sometimes my day job is quite full on at times. It's actually quite nice. In the evening, you get the kids in bed, and I just take myself away to my own little room and have an hour to myself, and you can just forget about everything else going on in your life and just focus on what's going on with your characters, and that's quite nice. It's a bit of an escape.
Yeah,
and that sense of escape has never gone away, which is good. I don't think I could write full time.
No.
Why so? I could, but I don't think I'd actually get much more work done than I do now. The thing is, for me, it's not one of those jobs where you could sit down 9 to 5 and just tap away all day. It's a different part of your brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, it's not. It's not your typical 9 to 5, sit at your desk and you do ABC every day like clockwork. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I have days where I sit down and write and I don't stop for an hour and a half, and I've written 1,500 words or 2,000 words, and you think, "Oh, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
I have other days where I write and then I look out the window for half an hour or so, and then I turn back round. And I might write another word, and you just think, I know now that it's just not worth bothering when I feel that way.
Yeah.
I can always tell when I give a book a read through when it's done. I wrote this on an evening when I was exhausted, or I wrote this when I just couldn't be bothered. Yeah, because it's rubbish what I've written. It's not worthy of its place on the page. And red pen comes out and starts going through it all. So you've got to be, you've got to be in it. You've got to be in the right place, the right headspace to write. Definitely.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think that's the beauty of it as well, isn't it? Like you said, you're in that mood, and when you're writing, just time sort of just when you're in that zone, and does that hour, 2 hours just like where the hell
flies by. Yeah, absolutely. It flies by. But I don't think I could do that for 8 hours.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? I like 8 hours a day every day. I don't think my brain would allow me that.
Yeah.
But even like on my day off, so I normally have a day off in the week and I write predominantly, but I'll sit down and I'll write for an hour. And then I'll go and do some washing, or I'll hoover the house, or I'll do something else for 20 minutes. And then I'll come back and I'll write for an hour. And then I'll go and put the washing on the washing line or in a tumble dryer or whatever. And I'll clean the kitchen quickly, or, do something different, come back another hour, go have some lunch, and then come back for another hour. So it just kind of breaks the day up a bit. So you're not just sat there.
Yeah, that's very cool. What are your plans now then? Have you got more stories and you're like, I need to get this done?
Oh yes, I've no shortage of ideas. It's the time
cool.
to get them down. So next will be a follow-up to Valentia, which was my last book.
Cool.
So that should be out about this time next year, hopefully. So I will start work on that soon. Well, I've got a plot, a basic outline of a plot, a bit more research to do, and then I can get going on that. The good thing about writing the second book in a series is I've got the core characters already fully formed, so I haven't got to kind of think about who my characters are going to be for this one. Any new faces will be secondary characters, which are a bit easier to kind of slip in. But my main 2 POV characters are kind of locked in, ready to go.
Cool.
I've already been in their head for a year, lived in their head for a year whilst writing Valencia, so that speeds it up a bit. Definitely helps you hit the ground running, because starting a book can be the hardest part.
I honestly just don't know how that ever comes about. It just seems such a mammoth thing to do, to start from that first word and start bringing those ideas to life. Is just unreal.
So what I do now is I will plot out a book, and then I will normally write the first 3 chapters, and then I bin them. Well, I don't bin them, but you put them to one side, and then chapter 4 is chapter 1 in the book. So you never start a story at the beginning. You start it part way through a character's journey. I can't remember where I must have read that or saw that somewhere once and thought that's a good idea. And it is a good idea. And then you kind of feed in what happened before into the book.
I've never heard that. That's really, really cool, because you've got that substance done.
Yeah. So if you're writing a book about a bloke walking to Tesco to buy bread, you don't start the story at his house. You start him halfway down the road, and you can kind of, through dialogue and interaction with other characters or whatever, you can kind of fill in what has happened before. So normally I'll start with a battle, or I'll start with an action scene, or I'll start with something kind of explosive or shocking. Or actually, for my next book, I've got something. It's an old Roman torture method that I found in a book, and I'm going to start with that, because it's just something quite shocking and something quite gripping that immediately draws you in. And I was like, that's the start of my next book. Absolutely. And it will be, so I was going to start with a raid on Roman Britain. So now I'm not going to start with a raid on Roman Britain. I'm going to start with the warriors captured on the raid being tortured once they've been defeated. And so there you are. I already had my beginning, and I've got rid of that, and now I'm going to start there.
And you've still got all that to work from, though, but it's happened.
But I've still got a POV character who's just fought a battle, and he's got a new cut on his arm or something on his head, or his arm is broken, and you can kind of then build that into that first chapter, so the reader gets a picture of where that character's just come from, or where they are. And it makes you got to make every book as 3-dimensional as you can. And that would all add to it.
And I always liked it. You sort of teed it up perfectly. If there's, with all your experience of going down this journey of being an author, someone who's maybe at the point of they have a burning idea that they, like the conversation you had with your wife, I've got this idea, I really want to do it. Is there a piece of advice that something you picked up or something you've experienced that you think that did help me?
In terms of writing the book?
Yeah, to be fair, you've given so many, like, the discipline and the different method, like it's been awesome. But yeah,
I think research as much as you can, and you can't do too much, and it never stops. Just because you started writing your book doesn't mean you stop researching. I've been writing books about Rome since 2015. I'm still researching. I'm still learning new things. So research as much and as much and as much as you can, particularly if it's historical fiction, because I mean, I've never tried, but writing something contemporary to a degree must be a bit easier, because if you want to know what a street in London looks like, you can go on Google Earth or Google Maps, and that will show you. And So if you're writing something historical, just research as much as you can. Yeah, you got to know what people wore, what they ate, how they clean their clothes. Do you know how the Romans clean their clothes?
No, I couldn't even
Urine.
imagine. Urine, really?
Google it. Yeah, I won't give you the details, but they must have stunk.
That would not have been nice. Oh my.
Yeah, that's in a book somewhere. That's in my third book, I think. It's definitely in one of them. I can remember writing it. Yeah.
Wow.
So for me, just research as much as you can, and then pick and choose what you put in. Because the more you research and the more you know about the period you want to write, the more comfortable you will be writing it. The more confident you'll be, and the more confident you are, the sharper your sentences are. The more you can bring really kind of help it come to life off the page and hopefully make it engaging for a reader.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, if people want to, for people that may not know you about your socials and website, if you want to sort of let us know what they are.
So my website is adamlofthouse.com. From the homepage on there, if you sign up to my newsletter, I email you a free book straight away for you to read. Not a short story or anything like that, a whole book, whole free book.
Oh, wow.
So you can do that. I'm on Facebook, Adam Lofthouse, Twitter, Adam Lofthouse, Instagram, Adam Lofthouse. I did have a look at TikTok the other day, but I got scared, so I'm not on TikTok.
People are saying to me, you need to. I used to be on it and watch it, but now I'm like, I've totally binned it off.
I've never even really watched it. Like I have the app on my phone now, but I just don't. I need to spend some time looking at it if I want to.
Because apparently for authors and creators, it's
massive.
Good space.
Yeah. The book talk is a whole thing. Yeah. Apparently it's huge. So it's something I thought I should probably, be getting involved in this or looking at this.
Yeah.
But I had a look. It scared me. Maybe one day it won't. But I'm not there at the minute anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well, honestly, thank you so much it's been amazing for me. Anyone who wants to go read books, definitely start. Like I said, I'm really wanting to start reading historical fiction. Now, I've got a series of books I didn't realize as long as it was that I need to finish, and then after that, I'll be definitely picking up your book. I
can recommend you so many books.
Yeah, I'll definitely be asking you then, because it fascinated. When I was a kid, my granddad had these old like encyclopedias, and there was I just remember reading about Spartans, reading about Rome, and I just love and large scale battles, that action, that grittiness.
So I remember my nan giving me a Wilbur Smith book.
Oh wow.
River God, or so, I can't remember. They're all about. He did a series of books about ancient Egypt, and I must have been like 10. Yeah. This was like an 800-page book. It definitely wasn't age suitable, but I just devoured it in days. I was like, this is great. You got any more of these?
It's amazing, isn't it? How one little thing like that can just get you. And look at what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, absolutely best of luck with everything. And yeah, maybe later on when book 2 comes out, it'd be cool to chat again and talk about that. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.